Hi well property women, and welcome to the journey of the Nambour 60 lot subdivision. We're actually at a place now where we've got our heads of agreement in place. So let me take you back to the start. First of all, it started over a cup of coffee, and that was because I felt that these two people should meet and we should build our networks and see what comes out of it. Leon Webber and his wife Kat are people that have been doing developments for about 7 or 8 years now. They started small and they've built up over time. And Leon has predominantly done a lot of that down in Brisbane, but he's done some on the Sunshine Coast. And with his skills, he's brought to the table an opportunity that he's put his foot on, but he's been tapped out at the moment because in funding purposes, because he's got some other projects on the go. So with that, we can then come in and say, okay, well, what part do you need us to play? And he's also tapped out in terms of keeping busy on the other projects, and he doesn't necessarily want to let this one go, but he does want to have involvement, but at a very high level. So he will take the role as the director in this new company that we will set up. So the contract he's already negotiated has a rescission clause so that we can rescind that contract, replace it with a new company. And then he will also sit on the advisory board. Peter Moriarty, who obviously was introduced through Don Moffat and came with high recommendation for his project management ability. He formerly worked at Vantage. So he and I have done a little bit since Christmas, and this is a project where we'll actually get the opportunity to work a little bit more integratedly with. So his role will be, as I said, in the delivery and making sure we're optimising the profits, but also letting it run as smoothly as possible. We know we're going to have some hiccups, you always do in development, but let's see what Peter can do about smoothing those out. My role is on the financial engineering side of it, so I work with Peter's timelines of when he needs funding, but also going back to the original contract that Leon had drawn up. He's given us enough time to make sure we can get certain things in place, and we don't have to settle this until September, but our due diligence period is coming to an end, so we now need to get busy. We're hoping to get a little extension on that due diligence period, but we've got quite a bit of work to do because the DA that exists is not really a sufficient optimization of that site. It's got a lot of downside to it, so it could end up being cost prohibitive if we were to follow that DA that currently exists. So the idea is now to get that modified, and we call it a minor change when we go back to town planning. We don't want to do a complete new DA, so we'll get a minor change done to the site, and that will mean that we can then cut a lot of the costs because we are on a slope. It's a sloping block. It's not conducive to just doing a flat design, which appears to be what has been done. You need to take in contours and curves and slope and grade and where the sewage pits and things got to go and water. So there's a lot to think about. Some of it has been thought out reasonably well, but there's a lot that hasn't. So currently it's back at the engineers. We're looking at a redesign on that. Today we actually met and we got the heads of agreement signed off though. So that was the next step, was okay, we all agree on how the pie is going to be cut, what the exit strategies are, how we bring in other parties, investors that are wanting to invest with us and enjoy that journey. So that's all in place. So now that goes off to the lawyers and the accountants, and they start to do their work while we've got the engineer doing their work. Peter's gone through and looked at some of the consulting work and he wants to consolidate that. So we've got a meeting on Wednesday, and at that meeting I'm going to bring the camera along, and I'll introduce you to the guys again and get them to talk a little bit about how this unfolded and what their roles are now and what they're going to do going forward over the next couple of weeks, so that you can be informed and educated on what it takes to deliver a subdivision like this. So I hope you enjoy the journey. It should be beneficial, I think. I would have loved something like this when I was starting out. So yeah, enjoy. So Leon, can you tell us how you found the site in the first place?
Actually, Lorna, it came to me while I was in New Zealand on holidays. I was there for a cousin's wedding, and I was literally at a winery. I got a phone call from an agent that I work with closely, and I think in this game you build relationships with agents, and I've got a fair network around Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast now, so they bring me deals, and most of the time they're no good. But this one actually piqued my interest. So it was something that I came across a couple of years ago. I had seen it vaguely, sort of I thought, but I wasn't sure. And then once I looked into it further, I realised that was the case. Funnily enough, that very agent's calling me now. We'll put that away. What has happened though is that the market's changed. The market's changed quite a lot in the last few years.
So what do you mean by the market's changed? How long has this been on the market, on and off the market? What's its history?
Well, look, I saw it. The history is that it's quite an old approved site. The approvals is back from 2007. Yeah, so we and part of the issue there is that approval has just not been done in a cost-effective way. I mean, the cost of building what is approved currently is sort of makes it hard to stack up, and so that tied in with the fact that land was only worth a certain amount a couple of years ago. This sort of project just hasn't stacked. So it has been on and off the market. A few parties had looked at it, but we've had this tied up since last year. The market's improved dramatically in the last 18 months or so, and it's getting stronger. There's strong demand for this sort of product, and we also believe strongly as well, with having engineers involved. We spent a fair bit of money recently on engineering, on a redesign, on doing a minor change, and just following the contours of the land better, and just constructing it a whole lot more cost effectively. So really, where we see opportunity in it now versus other people that may have looked at it, or the vendors or whatever, is that we can really save a fair bit of cost in fairly minor changes, like literally called minor changes with the council, amending the DA via a minor change, and then also the fact that the upside, the land is worth significantly more now than it was. There's a lot of comparable recent sales, very close by that support that, and the market's quite strong. And really, even though the land has moved, we're still at the bottom end of the market. It's a pretty, we're budget vacant land here. So it's a product I feel pretty strongly that's fairly safe. It's conservative. We're not going for $1 million blocks of land, or $500,000, or a quarter of mils. It's in my opinion, it's provided we get these costs all figured out, ascertained, we're pretty close to it. We get the change through. It's a fairly low risk types. Once we de-risk those little issues, the engineering things we're working on, it's
and so, Peter, you actually looked at this site some time ago as well.
I did.
How long ago was that, and what were your thoughts then?
I looked at this site probably about approximately 5 or 6 years ago. It's similar to Liam when he first looked at the site. Looked at it, saw the existing approval. At the time, the site was going on the open market, so it was via a competitive process. There wasn't that much interest in Nambour, but the vendor didn't want to give any time for anyone really to do any substantial due diligence. And based on the current approval and the civil design, it just wasn't a feasible prospect. So on that basis, I left it, forgot about it, until most recently Leon picked it up and brought it to the table.
Cool. And what makes you think that now is the right time for Nambour?
I think there's a number of factors. The market in South East Queensland in general is quite buoyant. Specifically on the coast, looking at its market alone, Nambour is still a very affordable prospect. The price point in Nambour for land sales has increased a fair bit over the last probably 24 months, making sites like this much more viable. But it is still a much more price point product type than anything else that we're seeing getting delivered from the railway towns on the coast through to the coastal strip. So I think the fact that it's a price pointed product, or can be delivered as a price pointed product, and that the price points in Nambour are better than they have been in my history, I guess, on the coast.
Cool. And Leon, you've explored a few of the other sales agents and what they're selling out there, the product to the market. What have you experienced?
Well, to be honest, I was quite shocked when I started looking at it recently. In the last 3 to 6 months, specifically around there, I had involvement in a smaller subdivision in Palmwood, just down the railway track, I should say. from Nambour, and that little strip, Palmwoods, Woombai, now overflowing into Nambour, has really taken off. I mean, there's land in there, and Duloc, 800 square metre blocks of land selling in the threes now, which is, in mid threes and Palmwoods, and that's, so that's, we're still like you said, at the we're at the budget end of that scenario, so I think that, it's good value in there. There's seems to be strong demand. There's there's little I know the sales agents I speak with sell a lot of land in that back especially between Mumbai and Nambour, and that back side behind the hospital there. They're getting great demand, great prices. I mean, there was a site within a couple of hundred metres away from our site, really, that just sold for like 275 and again at 287
for a duplex site,
for a duplex site. I mean, we're not basing our numbers on that. We're being a bit more conservative than that, but it is showing that demand and quick sales. So we think provided we tweak it right, which is what we're doing. We're almost there. That we will have a product that will have some upside, hopefully, but more to the point, I think it's fairly low risk in terms of sales, and provided we mitigate all the risks in the engineering side, which we're doing, and it's a pretty good prospect. So.
Yep, and you've decided to stage it. Why?
Well, there's a few reasons. You go.
I think the most obvious reason for me for the staging is to, I guess, de-risk the project. So to not, I guess, not just release a limited number of blocks to the market, but I guess make it easier to fund the project as a whole as well. By delivering 60 lots to the market at one point in time, that's a large volume, a lot of pre-sales to get under your belt to actually get going with your civil construction. But also it's a large capital cost to actually provide sufficient equity to kick off that single stage of construction. So I'd look at this project as potentially a 2 or if not maybe 3 stage project. And when I say stages, that probably largely relates to civil construction. What we actually release to the market might actually be released in a much more drip-fed manner to test the market's appetite for our pricing, for our product type, and our sort of positioning within the marketplace in Nambour as well.
And Leon, what's the strategy for pre-sales? When do you think that might start?
Look, essentially, once we've got disclosure plans drawn up, we finalise the amended plan and get it all approved. We get disclosure plans drawn up. We're talking sort of, within 3 to 4 months, we should be in that position to do that, and then we've still got a fair bit of time until settlement on that. So ideally, we'd we'd have to manage it. We've got some agents, local agents that do a lot of land in that area, very keen. We've got builder contacts. Pete's got some builders as well. But I think demand for especially the dual occupancy sites, I think we could probably sell all those very quickly if we wanted to push in. But we would probably drip feed a little bit, test our price points. And between now and then, we're a couple of months away, 3 or 4 months, there might be, more evidence or support of different price points in the market there, hopefully up. But it's looking that way. So, I think, it'll be something that will, with our ongoing weekly meetings and catch-ups, we'll develop that strategy. But there is I think there's good potential there to really get quite a few away before settlement.
Awesome. Okay, thanks guys.